Hello, and thanks for joining us for the Farming Today podcast with me, Kaz Graham. In this edition, the government announces the budget for a major farm support scheme in England. But will it be enough?
I don't think it will be enough money, and that's something the government needs to look at. If there's clear ambition from farmers to deliver those public goods and build resilience into their farming system, could they find additional money, particularly the cost impacts to farmers during this crisis of war and fuel and fertiliser?
First, though, all this week we are talking about growing cereals, things like grain and oats. The latest figures just out from the industry body, the AHDB, that's the Agriculture and Horticulture Development Board, show that farmers are growing less barley than they have for the last 16 years, while oilseed, rape and wheat have climbed back from last year's lows. The Eden Valley in Cumbria is possibly better known for its livestock than its crops, but over the past couple of years, father and son Thomas and Harry Eubank have been bucking that trend. Guided by local agronomist Stephen Gate, they've abandoned ploughing in favour of what's called one-pass drilling, and they've expanded their range of crops to maximise yields and increase sustainability. Helen Millican joined the three of them out in the fields, inspecting the progress of this year's wheat.
We're in the crop of Beowulf winter wheat. We've just got the ear nicely emerging. Yeah, so we're looking at a fairly healthy crop. It's very even. You could lay a tablecloth across the field. If we go over the hill, the river's come up and gone down, but the structure of the soils let the water away, and it's totally unaffected. So in November, all of that was just a glazed lake.
Which is really difficult to imagine.
Yes.
On a benign summer's day, when you have this fantastic vista, the Pennines resplendent, there's the play of the shadows, everything's so lush and green.
Farming in Cumbria, we get extremes of wet. If we can manage the water and get it away, we get the crops away. And last summer we had it red hot and dry, but because we had a decent amount of organic matter in our soils, that held on to the moisture.
Yeah, and the crop didn't lose fertility or didn't lose yield or anything
it didn't
by the lack of rain.
Because we've always got cover. As soon as a crop comes off, if it's not the next crop in the planned rotation, a cover crop goes in, and the cover crop consists of a tillage radish mixed with phacelia. So we've got two different rooting habits in that cover crop. We desiccate them in the spring prior to drilling the next crop, but the soil structure is already made for us. Yeah. Each crop follows another crop that's both beneficial, and we can control any volunteers from the previous crop. So everything has a synergy that works right the way through in the rotation.
So how is this different to what you were doing before?
Because, say, we put spring barley and winter barley in, obviously the winter barley goes in winter time, we would plough it and then sow it. With the following winter barley stubbles, we'd wait till the spring came with nothing in. So they were lying dormant for that 6-month period through the winter. Then we'll put the spring barley in. Obviously spring barley, and the way the weather is, it's been very hit and miss. Shuts a short growing window where it's going to create a crop.
Another benefit of having so many different crops in is you're getting up to 5 different harvests we can have a year, and weather-wise you're not relying on one period to get everything in all at once, and it's just not having all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah, so you have 5 bites of the cherry, so if that hasn't done as well, hopefully your next crop's going to help out.
What prompted this move on your part?
I think I was sat in the combine looking at the yield meter and thinking, this isn't going anywhere. No. The crops have plateaued, if not getting worse. Something had to change, and so we went for it, and guided by Steve, and it's working.
I think an important thing we're doing as well is we're looking at every stage in the operation and trying to maximise it as much as possible. So when we're spreading muck, we've got mushroom compost, because obviously we have no livestock, so we've got no rough muck to put on. Even when we're drilling, we're putting fert down the same spout as the seed.
We're really keying down what we're putting on where and making everything count.
It's trying to put more into the soil than you're taking out as well, because if you're just ploughing it and battering it to pieces all the time, you can only do that for so long.
As your soils become better, they become easier worked, so you're using actually less fuel to pull the drill through. Even
that's another thing. Also, not ploughing, it's only one time through, isn't it? So it's way less fuel.
So from that crux moment when you were sat on the combine thinking, what am I going to do here?
Yes, and a mortgage to pay on the farm as well, thinking, how is this going to stack up? And it wasn't. Oh, what a difference. The crops have been flying, they've been fantastic. Touch wood, these will hopefully look as good. I wouldn't go back now. Profit lines have been a lot better as well. It's revolutionary.
Farmers Thomas and Harry Eubank with agronomist Stephen Gate, hoping for another bumper crop this year in Cumbria's Eden Valley. Now, the Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs has announced how much money it's making available to farmers in England through the Sustainable Farming Incentive, or SFI, for 2026. It's something that farmers and environmental organisations have been keenly anticipating. There's a total budget of £240 million for new SFI agreements. Up to 60 million of that is allocated to two specific groups: small farms under 50 hectares and those farms not already in any existing environmental land management scheme. They'll be able to apply from June the 30th in what DEFRA are calling Window 1, while the scheme opens to all other farmers and land managers in September in Window 2. The Sustainable Farming Incentive is the DEFRA Public Money for Public Goods scheme that pays for farming in ways that protect and benefit the environment, support food production and improve productivity. Martin Lines is the CEO of the Nature Friendly Farming Network. He said that while he understands government budgets are tight, this pot of money will not be enough.
I don't think it will be enough money, and that's something the government needs to look at. If there's clear ambition from farmers to deliver those public goods and build resilience into their farming system, could they find additional money, particularly the cost impacts to farmers during this crisis of war and fuel and fertiliser.
How much demand do you think there's likely to be for these two rounds of SFI applications?
I think there's going to be significant demand. I think the first window, many of those that haven't got an application will be keen to get in, and many of the small farms. But the second window, particularly now they're making the system work that people who've got a scheme that finishes at the end of this year or early next can pre-apply, there is going to be significant demand, and I think the budget will soon get used up.
Yeah, well, I wanted to ask, how confident are you that all of those farmers who want to apply for SFI and who do apply for it will actually be able to get onto this scheme?
I believe lots of farmers are going to want to apply. I think it's up to the government and particularly the Prime Minister and the Treasury to really look at if there's real demand to deliver these public goods that build resilience and long-term food security. How do they support those farmers to do it? In particular, in a time of when high input costs, poor returns, how do you support farmers and they could step up and do that?
Applications are being managed so that small farms and those not already in schemes can apply first. They apply at the end of this month. And I think, do you have some concerns about that?
I think it's the right thing to do, that you give a window for those small farms that are very time poor because they're busy doing their day jobs to get applications in, and those without schemes. I think the pot of money for the £60 million for that window is fairly small, but it also gives a controlled rollout for DEFRA to make sure the system actually works. And if they aren't successful in that first window, you should have your application already pre-done. So as soon as the second window opens, you can press the start button and get your application in.
For many farmers, SFI will be the only farm support that they can access. How do you think the news of this SFI budget will be going down in the farming community?
And we've got to remember this is just in England as well. So other devolved nations have still got an area-based structure. So I think for many farmers, those that want to apply, it is difficult. It's a relatively small budget for the amount of farmers and the schemes that are finishing later this year to deliver the continued ambition that was happening there. But we also need to remember there's the higher tier. They're putting more funding into the higher tier countryside stewardship and then hopefully opening up the application window for more farmers. So SFI is just one part of a range of things that are in the ELM budget. So we've got to look at all of it, not just one part.
Well, that's Martin Lines from the Nature Friendly Farming Network. Dame Angela Eagle is the farming minister. I put it to her that the budget is too low.
Well, remember there's 560 million already committed from previous agreements that's being spent in this financial year as well. So that 240 million is for new agreements. These agreements tend to last 3 years and be paid for at the end. And so it's a slightly more complex picture than that new money figure would suggest.
Demand for this scheme is likely to be really high. How are you going to manage applications? Is it going to be just first come, first serve? Because Tom Bradshaw, president of the NFU, has said it's going to be a bit of a bun fight, really, because so many people want to apply.
Well, first of all, we're going to open the scheme this month to small farmers. And by small, we mean those that farm on 50 hectares or less, or people that don't have a scheme. And we'll see how it goes. There's then a second window with the rest of the money, another 180 million for people to apply in September. So that's how it's going to go. We're going to be very open and transparent about how the money is being applied for and spent.
Because last year, SFI effectively ran out of money. It was closed to applications with no prior notice to farmers. How are you going to ensure that that doesn't happen again?
Well, look, the Secretary of State has been very clear that she doesn't want that to happen. We've said we'll be very transparent about how the money is being applied for and allocated as that's happening. And so it will be clear to see. We won't just have a sudden overnight closure. We're not going to put farmers or ourselves in that position again.
We've just been hearing from the Nature Friendly Farming Network. Now, they tell us they understand that budgets are tight, but they say that as a nation, we have got to invest in food security. Could you find more money if the demand is very great, as many commentators are suggesting it will be?
Well, look, the Comprehensive Spending Review, which lasts for 3 years, allocated 11.7 billion in farming budget for the Parliament. And by the end of this Parliament, we'll be spending £2 billion on nature-friendly farming grants and activities, which is 150% higher than we inherited in 2023-24. So there's a big shift of support into the farming transition so that we can have a more nature-friendly, sustainable farming system with much healthier soils and better room for nature.
Up until now, it hasn't been possible for farmers with land in existing stewardship agreements to apply for SFI, even if those existing agreements are about to run out. And that has meant that some farmers have missed out on entering SFI. You're hoping to change that this year, aren't you?
Yes, I mean, some of the constraints here have been the IT systems that we've inherited, which the Rural Payments Agency have to work with. And that's made it impossible up until now for people to be able to make bids for grants before their previous grant has run out. But we have done work with our IT providers, and we certainly hope that come the opening of the second window, that those with expiring agreements will be able to apply early for new schemes.
OK, I just want to ask you one last question, and that goes back to the money again. Lots of commentators are saying that £240 million is not going to be enough to fund all of the farmers who want to apply for the sustainable farming incentive. What do you say to that? What is your answer to that?
I have a budget which is finite. This country has a 100% debt to GDP ratio at the moment and is paying billions upon billions in debt interest for the money it's had to borrow at the end of the crises we've been facing. There are constraints in life. I'm doing my best to get as much value as possible out of the monies that we have been allocated in the Comprehensive Spending Review so that I can do the best for farmers.
Farming Minister Dame Angela Eagle. Just before we go, a very quick reminder that time is running out to make a nomination for the BBC Food and Farming Awards. Each year, as you know, we celebrate those making the country better through food. And Charlotte is once again judging the Archers and Farming Today Farming for the Future Award alongside Marley Harris, who plays Natasha Archer. So we are looking for innovative, forward-thinking individuals and organisations who are shaping a more sustainable future for farming. To let us know who you think should be in the running, go to bbc.co.uk/food awards, where you can also find the full terms and conditions and privacy notice. Entries close on the Monday. Yes, this coming Monday, the 15th of June at midday. But that is all from us for this morning. I'm Kaz Graham. The producer is Sally Challoner, and Farming Today is a BBC Audio Bristol production.